JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Monday, December 8th, 3:35. Really quick rant, talk about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P, NASDAQ down about 0.5%. Small caps hanging on, up about 0.1%. And nothing crazy here. S&P's up 8 of the past 9 sessions. You have to think at some point there's going to be some kind of pull. And quite honestly, I look at my watch list and more than half the names are in the green. Just things that would concern me. Yields continue to tick higher. The VIX is up, what, 10? We have 12%, close to 10%. But we have the Fed meeting Wednesday. So to think there's not going to be some volatility, or at least some volatility get priced in the market, not surprising. So today's one of those kind of somewhat cautious days. There's names I'm looking at that I want. I almost added some calls this morning, but doesn't make sense to get overly aggressive unless I have extremely high conviction. So I'll just keep things small, lock profits in on some names I'm in from last week, and then look for opportunities, right? So overall market SPY, take a look, 679. That's kind of like the key spot I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. We get down there, I'll be open to getting some put hedges. Outside of that, I'll just kind of ride things out. And the thing is, I was trying to look, if we do get some kind of pull, what would be some decent put hedges? And some of the names that I've been using as put hedges, obviously Broadcom reports earnings on Thursday, so premiums are whacked to try and do that as a put hedge. So maybe just the SQQQ calls. It had a split now, so makes it a little more interesting for a hedge. So I'll probably use that if we do get some weakness today. I don't know. I mean, not today. Tomorrow on Wednesday. But that's that. That's kind of overall market. Nothing. There's not much in the way of earnings. I think Toll Brothers reports after the close. Tomorrow after the close, GameStop, a name I'm not even gonna look at. Just I don't want to be tempted to play. And that's that. And then the big names, obviously, the Fed meeting Wednesday, Oracle earnings after the close. That'll be, I would say, uh, as important as the Fed meeting, but darn close. And then Broadcom on Thursday. Now you hear all this chatter now. Folks trying to figure out if the Fed's going to cut rates Wednesday. If what is the tone for 2026? What is that going to look like? So those are kind of like the things that everybody's talking about. To me, I think it's like a foregone conclusion. If they don't cut rates come Wednesday, I think we'll be some serious issue with the market. All right. So that's overall market. So just quick on individual names. Sorry about that, folks. Of course, I don't have my charts here. Okay. First, just quick on KODK, right? Chopped around in the morning, was like 9:10, 9:20, 9:10, hits lows in 11 o'clock, and then just starts to rally about 11:15. Goes from 9:10 to 9:65. I put on the watch list this morning. It's not a name that I was sitting here thinking, okay, it's a long-term hold. I'm going to go out and get some calls for a crazy squeeze. But at the same time, I'm not going to fight the trend. And it looks like the trend to me is upward. 52-week high. So once it broke and held that today, I'm like, this might continue to go. So the thing is, I still have December strikes. I want to be able to ride the wave, as opposed to if it's longer than a week, I want to make sure I'm in some kind of position. And if it does continue to rally, obviously the further out strikes are going to start to get expensive. So lock some more of the December strikes in for 150, 200%. And then I went and got those January strikes far out of the money. So the problem would be if there is some kind of pull, those will be bidless pretty quickly, but they're up 60% now. So I'll just continue to hold the January strikes. And you know what, if it continues to find life and maybe gets into the double digits, this could have some kind of meme FOMO squeeze from folks who are looking for the next open, or don't want to compare it to all these other names, but you never know. So that's kind of some of the reason why I got those January strikes. So anyway, so riding free, plenty of profits, got the January strikes, and that's KODK. Duolingo, gosh, you would think on a day like today with the Nasdaq down 0.5% that Duolingo would be taken on the chin. Relative strength in the morning, and boom, took off. Next thing you know, at 12:30, it's 210. Still have those 225s. They were like $1 for most of the morning. I almost closed them out, and then it took off. So lock some more out for almost 300%. I'll just hold the rest. I was thinking, do I add some higher strikes? The 203 is the big spot. Did I post a chart? Of course I didn't. I had it here. So that's the earnings level. So when it came down from earnings, that was the highs from its post earnings trade. I'm not going to sit here and say a gap fill up in the 260s is coming, but 225, 230, I see probably reasonable. So I'll continue to hold the 225s. If I get more conviction on getting some more strikes, I will. But nice one, riding free with plenty of profits there. And then deck, right? I mean, take a look at deck. I don't know how many days in a row this is. This got to be at least 9 sessions in a row. Up another 1% here today, and the premiums coming into the calls finally. don't want to be in a spot where it drops back on $100 and in torture mode where the premiums are not, uh, at least in my opinion, priced in what they should be. So I locked some more of those deck strikes in for close to 300%. Actually, well, closer to 400%. And I'll just hold there. I have a couple left. I was thinking of getting those January 120s. Maybe I'll wait to get those on a pull. Um, and what else do I have? Serve Robotics is pretty much flat here today. So not going to add any more strikes just yet here, but a good sign. I think some of it's because the small caps are outperforming here today. And then Roku, right? So you have to think, and I was talking about on the rant this morning, that it's just got that whole space with Netflix, and there's still more rumblings. Is someone going to jump in and nix this deal with Warner Brothers? I'm sure this is going to probably play out for a couple days, hopefully not too long. But all it does is just shows, in my opinion, how big this market is, and if there's any name that should benefit from a bidding war. And you say, well, Roku's not part of it. Why would they benefit? I think Roku would benefit based on it just shows how big this market is, and Roku's front and center. So it's the only content neutral platform out there, and people look at Roku and I still think folks don't understand the story. So I was actually looking to get some 115s into next week, to December 19th. I was looking at the 110s. It goes up to 102 and change in the early morning or late morning, and then dips all the way back down to $100. And I'm one half, oh my gosh, thankfully I didn't get the calls, and now here it is at pretty much right at the highs of the morning. So maybe tomorrow I'll get some strikes there, but don't be surprised if I had some calls there. Um, Obviously, a Pool and Biogen. Biogen's flat here today. A disappointing Pool. You would think uh, it, with stocks that are sold off for this year, getting that year-end bounce, you think Pool would be one of those names that would bounce. It's not, unfortunately. I think some of it's because of rates rising. And then last but not least, Turn and GPCR. GPCR was one of my top 5 stocks. Maybe it was 2 years ago when it was in the 30s. Great data. Boom, stock was almost, I think it was in the 90s earlier today. And then Turn and Burn. Gosh, I was playing Turn when it was $4. Huge short interest, cash, plenty of cash on hand. Kicking myself for not trading and holding on to that one with some long-term strikes. But I always say these biotech names, they're so painful because you trade them on and off, and when they finally pay out, they pay out. So, kicking myself there. Anyway, let's have a great day, folks. I'll be back. Rock and roll.